Hello, and welcome to another episode of Creating Cultures That Outperform. I do hope you had a chance to watch a lot of the AI episodes we did. We branched off into human machine teaming with AI and dug deep into some special topics. Last week, we got back into culture, talking about the importance of hybrid and remote work that works. We covered why companies are calling people back to the office. We think it's a mistake. And I'm here with my co-host, Terry Mays, to discuss this. Let me just go down here. This is a series. We talked about what's really driving the return. Today, we're going to go over the new cultural operating model. We do hope companies just fix what's not working for them. The reality is most people felt it was more productive, even though management didn't. And there are some underlying leadership needs that seem to be really immature leadership needs to me. I mean, we've moved into this world of work from anywhere, hire from anywhere, lead from anywhere. They've got to figure it out. This is too important a benefit, and it's the future of work. And so companies are making a mistake going back on this. I think it's really, really huge mistake, Terry.
Yeah, I tend to agree that there are some benefits that you've been afforded by working remote that have in turn caused some higher productivity. That I believe once people start going back into the office, because they've got that extra overhead of commuting and, fighting the traffic possibly, or, coming in early and staying late, it's really not something that you're going to be as willing to do just because you've got that extra time, drive time. So when people could work and kind of be flexible with their work environment, jumping on a call early in the morning or later in the evening, it's not big of a deal if you're already at home. But if you're working in an office environment and then you have worked there all day, so it's a little bit different culture being in the office, and then you come home in the evening, the last thing you want to do is get on more work calls. But in some cases, that's going to be the nature of business that people have because of the way that we've kind of gone to hiring from anywhere. And people are in these organizations where you may have different time zones and you may be impacted by that kind of work. So you want to make sure as a leader that you're not overstressing people with this return to office mandate, because people have been working in these environments where they could be more flexible. So they were more flexible, right? So I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I have children and grandchildren, and then I have aging parents. So I'm the caregiver for a lot of people. A lot of people depend on me for a lot of different things. And so I'm just one person of many that's in that type of a
You're
situation.
one story of many stories like this.
Many stories where
People
people,
benefited greatly from this hybrid work.
yes, they're caring for elderly parents, parents that may need some support, or they're caring for children. I've also been in that stage of life
Me
where
too.
I worked remote and I had small children, and it actually worked beautifully because I could get my kids to school. I could work all day and then get them off the bus or pick them up from school and care for whatever needs they had. And so I always made sure that whatever I was working on got done. If I had any delays or issues or problems, whatsoever, I always made sure that I was make my manager aware early enough so that we could do something about it.
Well, so let's talk about what companies should be doing, because this is really is very important. Next
It
week, we'll
is.
get into lead from anywhere, but companies have let cultures just happen. They've always had unintentional cultures. They never knew how to measure, monitor, and improve on a continuous basis. And so they switched to remote and hybrid work, but they never intentionally said, let's make this work better than when they were in the office, because there's so many benefits to it. So it's time for companies to really get their bearings, think about this, and begin to operate in a way that hybrid work, where people working hybrid, remote, or in the office, where all these work styles actually work and function really well. So the first thing is you got to create a welcoming culture. New people come into these companies, they're like on an island. They start, they get some emails about how to start. They signed all their paperwork, and it's terrible. So Terry and I are going to share a few things you could do. One of them is a first friend. For the people who are remote, get that first friend, somebody whose job is defined. They're there to help them navigate things in the company, to find their way around. Immediate friendship, somebody they can reach out to. Tara, maybe you want to talk about the next one.
Yeah, so that onboarding experience is really your introduction to the company, and how that person feels about the company starts to get formed through the onboarding experience. And if they have a horrible onboarding experience where they're having to go to different people and try to figure things out on their own, it's
Terry
not
got a new fiber router installed, new fiber and a router installed. So, yeah, she's been having a couple of internet issues, but anyway, yeah, the memorable onboarding, Tara, you got into it, you got cut off, unfortunately.
yeah,
Very important. The best one I've seen is where everybody gets on Zoom or Teams, but they're all in the waiting room, all the people they're going to be working with, and the boss gets on with them in the morning, and 5 minutes in says, "Oh, I'd like you to meet somebody." Hits enter, and 20 people pop in
that's
immediately,
awesome.
and they're all clapping their hands, welcome, hey. And you really do it right. You've got to have a memorable onboarding, and that should lead into coworkers reaching out to you automatically, because it's their job to now reach out, introduce themselves, and try to make you really feel that you're part of the team.
Yeah, you don't want people to feel like they're isolated out on an island by themselves and nobody cares. You don't want them to have to struggle in their, getting to know people on the team, and kind of all of the onboarding that takes place with that, all of
Yeah.
the training and transitioning. You don't want people to feel isolated when that happens.
Yeah, and you need the open door policy for that worker and for yourself. You need these informal check-ins like you used to in the office. Go drop in. Maybe they're sitting, half a floor away. You go, hey, drop in, say, hey, how's it going? You've been here for 3 days. Everything good? How's your first friend working out? You got to do the same thing, even though they're remote.
Yeah.
And so that's just super important. You've got to build this experience that works right.
Yes. All of these things can be done remotely. This
Yep.
isn't something that you have to do in person. I've built many a friendship over Microsoft Teams. So it can be done. You just have to have the willingness and the desire to do it.
Yep. So create that welcoming culture. Very important. And then, people who start in a company always have tons of questions. How do I do stuff? So you've got to intentionally take care of all these navigation issues. Somebody's got to sit down and go through the whole organization with them. Who's who, what roles and responsibilities exist where in the company. If you need something, who do you reach out to? Those teams should be informed if this new person's going to be working with them, that, hey, so-and-so's new, they may be working with you. You should introduce them to these other people that aren't on the immediate team as well. Where do you find information around here?
Yeah.
Very, very important.
Where do you get all of the inside tips? You need
Yeah.
somebody that can tell you all the unwritten rules and all the unspoken rules that are there, so that nobody steps on a landmine not knowing. Also, all the secrets that are just
Yeah.
kind of internal to the organization or your team. You want somebody to bring you up to speed so you can do things and feel like you're one of the team. You're a part of the team.
Yeah. And of course, if you have a culture where sharing and helping behaviors really are part of the DNA, then in fact, people are going to automatically start sharing what they know with this person. They're going to help them when they're struggling. They're going to let them know, I'm here to help you, because it doesn't all fall on the first friend. That first friend's there to help them get going. But everybody's there to help make the person feel included. And
Yeah.
so this is super important. You got to do all of this stuff right.
You want the person to succeed. You want to set them up for success. And that's how you do it,
Yeah.
by getting the whole team engaged.
And now we get down to this whole notion of equal treatment. It's not out of sight, out of mind at all. You're on that team as if you were in the office. So if you're having a work event of any kind and people are bringing their spouses with them, significant others, whoever it may be, the people who are remote get flown in with their spouses or significant others, and they attend just like everybody else. It's completely equal treatment. If they're sitting in a remote office in a town and they're the only one out there, and some leaders are coming into that town for other business, they go out of their way to say, wow, I'm going out here to Austin, Texas. Oh, I know we have two people out there. I'm going to look them up and I'm going to set up coffee with them. I'm going to get together with them, fill them in. Just like you might drop in on somebody when you visit another campus. You might go stop into two offices and visit somebody. Same thing. Got to go out of your way to integrate and weave these people fully into the culture as if they were on the same floor you work on.
Right. It also shows that remote person that they matter. The work
Yeah.
that they're doing is seen, that they are seen. Remember, a lot of times people just want to be seen and heard. And
Yeah.
so to have them make stronger connections with the company, they just need to know that somebody cares.
Right. And that all results in kind of this sense of belonging. Terry and I have talked about it many times. People think belonging, they've never really thought about it in depth, but it's not an emotion, it's a feeling. It's a collective feeling you get based on every single thing that happens. So, hey, when they do stop by and see you out in Austin, Texas, you start to feel a little bit like you belong. And
Yes.
so that's really important that you get this sense of belonging. And there's other things companies can do, like, some of these other things that are here, Tara.
Yes. Like stay interviews, just having lunch or coffee with somebody just to understand what has kept them at the company, help them to or allow them a platform to share how they feel about the company, that sense
Yeah.
of belonging that they've developed over the years.
Well, maybe not.
Find out what that's all about. Or like Frank said, if they're not feeling that sense of belonging, you want to know that before the person leaves, and
Yeah.
definitely don't want it to be people that are some of your highest performing assets, people assets to leave. You want people to feel like they belong and that this is the place for them. And if they don't feel like that, you want to know that pretty quickly so you can address that issue.
Right. Rather than doing exit interviews, do stay interviews. Find out if the person is really happy. What would make you stay here for the next 2 years? We think you're doing a good job. Is there something that's not happening that you feel should be happening? Are you getting the type of work you want? Are you feeling part of the culture here? I mean, all those questions, you got to ask them.
Yeah.
And you should be using these online systems like Slack or Teams to set up different groups that people might have an affinity for so they could start to meet other people in the company. I've heard of companies with knitting groups, companies that have fishing groups, all these different hobbies and things people have that you can put up there, whatever makes sense for you and the company. And people could start these groups and they can orchestrate them and
Yes.
curate it. And then suddenly people have another mechanism to attach themselves to the company and meet other people, which is just super important.
Yes, this is all about connections. How do
Yeah,
you keep people connected? And this is
absolutely.
just one of many ways that you can use to help connect people to the organization.
And Terry always talks about the importance of communication and, doing this intentionally. And so, Terry, some of the best practices you've seen.
Yeah, so communication has to happen in multiple formats. It can't just be in person. That's great. I'm saying not saying that you don't want to do in-person communication, but that's just one method. You've got to have multiple streams of communication. And I love this image that Frank generated. I think it's fabulous because it really speaks to the many, many different ways that you've got to have multiple streams, whether it's through email communications, text messages, phone calls, in person. Like it all has to
Yeah.
happen
Town
because,
hall meetings with
yes,
virtual and remote attendees.
absolutely. You've got
Yeah,
to have more than one method. You can't say, well, everything has to be in person because it's not going to reach everybody because that date that you choose is not going to be the perfect date for everybody. It's the perfect date for the person leading the meeting,
yeah.
the perfect time, but it's not the perfect date and time for everybody. And
And
so you want to have multiple ways to reach out to people so that they can still get the communication and not feel like they were left out.
right. And it's got to be two-way. You've got to be getting input from people. And you got to find out, is communication working? Because if you have a communication plan, you're probably going to want to update it. There may be things that aren't working for certain people. Maybe they feel out of loop. What could you do to include them? So you got
Yeah.
to get that information and feedback and continuously improve this because it's intentional. You got to
Yes.
make it work for everybody, not just the people in the office who have access to information from lots of people because they had to be sitting around, they hear everything.
hmm And I think it's so important that this communication is intentional and not noisy, not just saying something for the sake of saying something, but
Right.
has some meaning, that it's adding value to people and not just gibberish or just, saying things, just a communication, an email
Mhm.
communication, or a town hall, just to host a town hall. If you have nothing
Or
to share, then it's going to irritate the crap out of people when you do that.
yeah. Oh, we got to get the weekly update out. What could we talk about? When you find yourself in those situations, it's not a
Yeah,
very good communication mechanism.
right.
And then lastly, when you really look at this, um, you know, some people don't like when their spouse works remotely. And so here you can see the coroner is doing some remote work and the wife is just really not having it. She's not happy.
She's not
Not
happy
for
at all.
everybody. So office work is a good thing. Certain people have to be in the office. That's okay.
Yes.
Question.
And it's a legitimate thing, right? So some roles are not good for remote work.
That's right.
This is a prime example. It's not a good fit for remote work. But when you have roles that are great fits for remote work, let people be remote.
Yeah.
Find ways to keep them included and engaged, but don't force them back into the office just because. Give them a
Yeah.
reason.
Don't force it. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
It's
give them a reason
it's
to
not
stay.
really the right thing to do.
Yeah,
You got to find the roles that really do work in the office. And those roles, people know when they get hired, this is an office role.
exactly.
And then there's no miscommunication. And then lastly, we're moving on next week. We're here every Wednesday at 3 o'clock. We have another episode. Next week, we're covering leading from anywhere. Every leader should have that skill. We could see that plenty of them don't. Companies are calling people back to the office, making, I think, a very, very big mistake. So, look, we hope you can join us next week for the next episode. Great series. Hope to see you then.
Yes. Bye for now.